Here goes inverse trig. Now you need a calculator for inverse trig. So if you do not have yours sitting by you, go get it now and let's do this. So I will do the 3 on the left, you'll do the 3 on the right, just so you can practice using your calculator. So the sine of 327, that's in degrees. So make sure you're very familiar with your calculator. You need to click mode, and on the third row you'll see radian and degrees. Well, you will need to use both modes when you are doing this. So if it's in degrees, you must answer in degrees. So you highlight degree, click enter, and then you just press second mode and quit back out. So all you have to do is type the sine of 327 and click enter, and it's going to give you negative 0.5446, and that's it. Cosecant, remember, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So for this one, you're going to want to type 1 divided by sine of 196. So back to your calculator, 1 divided by the sine of 196 is going to give you negative 3.6280, because it does say round to the nearest 10,000th. And then finally, number 5, notice how it's not in degrees anymore. Now it's in radians. So you need to go back to mode and change it to radians. Now, if you don't do that and you do it in degrees, you will get a different answer, which could make a lot of points disappear on quizzes and tests. So make sure you're paying attention to which mode your calculator is in at all times. So you know secant is 1 divided by cosine. So just like the last one, we're going to do 1 divided by cosine, but now we're just going to type 3 pi divided by 7, and then you're good to go. So we're going to get 4.4940. That's it. You're good to go. So you get to try number 2, 4, and 6. It's the same kind of setup. You're going to have to use 1 divided by. You're going to have to switch between radians and degrees, but you go right ahead and try those 3 on your own. And there you have it. If you got those answers, you know how to use your calculator correctly. If you didn't, go back and watch the first 3 again to see what you did wrong. How to find an angle to the nearest minute. Now again, this is just inverse trig. Inverse trig basically says, here, we'll give you the ratio. You go backwards and find out what the angle was. Okay? So, how we do that is this. So, number 1, we're going to find what the angle is. So, in order to work backwards, inverse trig uses the second button. So we're going to go and press second sine, and that's going to be of 0.5723. However, before you finish typing that, make sure you go back and click mode and go back to radians, or back to degrees. Now the reason why I say that is because it says round to the nearest minute. That's telling you that you need to be in degrees. And since the last problem you probably did was number 6 was in radians, you've got to make sure you go back to degrees. So it's telling us that the ratio is 0.5723. So once you do that, you're going to get 34.9107, yada, yada, yada. However, this did say round to the nearest minute. So you need to go back and press second angle, and number 4 changes it back to degrees, minutes, and seconds. And rounding, since we're above 30 seconds, our final answer is going to be 34 degrees and 55 minutes. Okay? It's all calculator work. You just have to be good with your calculator. So, number 3 is one where we've got cosecant. Now, before you go press 1 divided by the sine, the second sine, that's not the way it works this time. Because you have to, first of all, imagine what this would look like mathematically. If this really was sine of theta, it would be 1 over the sine. So cosecant is 1 over cosecant is going to give you sine. So this is the sine of theta is equal to 1 over 1.9632. So it's a little bit different this time. So now to find the theta, all you would have to do is second sine 1 divided by 1.9632, and then you would get 30.6 yada yada yada. Second angle number 4 change to degrees, minutes, and seconds, and you're going to end up with a final answer of 30 degrees and 37 minutes. Okay, so that's it. Again, it's just calculator work. You've got to be familiar with how to use your calculator at all times. So you get to practice number 2 and 4. Go give them a try on your own. So you should have 78 degrees in 25 minutes and 75 degrees in 33 minutes if you did that correctly. All right. So now we're going to find an angle in radians. So you guessed it, make sure you go back and put your mode back in radians if you would like to get the correct answers here. So this is a little tricky, but it's not bad at all if you think about what's actually going on. So we know that theta is going to have a pi in the answer. So how are we going to get that? Because our calculator is just going to use 3.1417 yada 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 yada. So let's think about this. In order to get this answer, the first thing we need to do is use inverse trig with what's given. So the first thing you need to do is second cosine, and then we're going to type in the square root of 3 divided by 2, close our parentheses, and that's going to give us 0.523 yada yada yada. However, that is with pi. So now all we have to do is divide that answer by pi. And that'll give us 1.6666667. And then all you have to do is math, enter, enter, change it to a fraction, and you get 1/6. But then you just have to remember that's without the pi. So your final answer is pi over 6. That's it. So the first thing you do is inverse of the square root of 3 over 2, and that is going to give you 0.523 yada yada yada. And then you take that answer and you divide it by pi, and you're going to get 0.166 yada yada yada. And then you're going to change it to a fraction, and you'll get 1/6. You just make sure you remember the pi goes on top. And that's it. That's all you have to do. All right, so number 2. I'll step you through one more. This would be second tan of 1. Click enter. Divide that by pi. And you get 0.25. I don't think you need me to math frac that for you to know that that's 1/4. So the answer is pi over 4. All right, you try number 2 or number 3 really quick. And if you got pi over 6 again, you would be correct. All right, so that's it for finding an angle in radians. So the last section is find the measure of the acute angle to the nearest minute. So of course you know about reference angles and stuff. So if you want to make sure that we're finding the acute angle here. So, but this is basically the exact same thing as what we did in the problems above. You just need to make sure you change back to degrees with your calculator. And for this one, you would just do exactly what it says. Second sine of 0.6728. Change it to degrees, minutes, and seconds. And if you use your calculator correctly for this problem, you should get theta equal to 42 degrees and 17 minutes. Now, number 2, you would actually get a negative angle. And because your calculator is automatically going to find that acute angle for you. Okay, so technically, this next answer is going to be in the 300s. but because we want the acute angle, you'd have to go backwards, and you would find, first of all, this would be sine -1 of 1 divided by -3.2578. Okay, remember, this is not 1 over sine. This is the other way around because we are working backwards. And then change that to DMS, and you're going to get -17 degrees and 53 minutes. All right? So this lesson was, again, basically, how do you use that calculator? This is Longo, and I'm out. See you, bye.